Okay, so basically what I'm going to teach you now is based on what I've already done here, right? This is microservice 1, this is microservice 2. One is student microservice, another is school microservice, okay? So you can see here, let's just refresh the tables and okay, good. So far, so good.
So you already have this table.
I already have some tables, but I'll just add, I'll show you what I'll do them. Anyway, I'm going to start a new microservice now. Start a project. Microservice 1, this is, yeah, I'll do microservice 1 student. Or I'll start with microservice 2 school. Next, so like I told you, right?
4.
JDBC, Spring, all that usual stuff. And then I'm going to go finish. Now, Lombok I have to put in separately.
Application properties.
In case you're wondering, one tool that is used here. Lombok install in STS Spring Tool Suite. So in Stack Overflow, you have these steps of how to install Lombok in Spring Tool Suite.
Okay.
Right? In case you have to do it again, so it's you can do it for Mac also. They give you instructions and all. So so I'm going to start with the school microservice. Okay.
Okay.
So first you start with the POM file. In POM you add the Lombok because Lombok dependency.
Okay.
So I'm going to add that here. Dependency, Lombok dependency. Among dependencies, I add one more dependency, Lombok, right? And on the right side, you can see it starts to build and install, and it's done. And the next one, again, application properties, right? So there. So this is, since I'll just say this is service, I'll just assume that this is going to take part, it's going to communicate with service port 9002, right? And database, all database details given here. Jpa Hibernate, I've set it up to update, right? What update does is, what's interesting, if it's not there, it will create it, okay? And if there's one that exists, it will change it will add values to it'll add columns to existing tables. That's what update does. Yeah, it's kind of, it inserts columns.
Okay.
Got it? So it doesn't delete anything. Got it? So it changes existing tables if tables are the same. So that is very interesting about it. So usually people use update only. Okay, so now I'm going to start with this. The first one would be
Models.
What is it? Models, right?
Yeah.
Models. Second one would be repositories. Third one would be services. Fourth one would be what is the last one? Controllers. Yeah. So start again. Student will start from the basic, right? Model. So this is going to be school microservice. Okay. So I'm going to just say school. What? Yeah, exactly. So first you have to say that this is an entity, right? And then you have to start putting in the Lombok functions, data Lombok, and all args constructor, no args constructor. Now they'll they're giving enter because it's nothing. So I'll start with this private long ID. Okay. Then what private name, right?
Yeah.
School string name of the school. Right. Then let's say private integer students number. Okay. Number of students. Okay.
Okay.
Correct. So far so good, right? Now so you can see, right? So
Yes.
because see each time I add a variable, it will like update. It's all getters, setters, constructor, everything is updated. If I remove one, it'll get updated there also. That's why this is very useful. You don't have to. You can just add and do whatever you want here. Right. So I say that this is an ID.
Yeah.
Then you have to
Generated
say the
values.
generator. Yeah. Generated value strategy
Auto.
auto.
And
Okay.
if you want to add column name, you can
Add column.
if you want to add the column name as already added, so you don't.
Yeah. I mean, if I found I can do that. I can also say that like the name of a school, it has to be. Let's say that it can. If you want, do you want to make it nullable? That it has to have a name, right?
So
School
without,
must have a name.
if you put
Uh,
nullable,
then you can also give unique. See, school must have a. See, school name should be unique, right? Two schools can't have the same name.
duplicate. Okay.
So you can give this non-nullable. You can do whatever you want, okay? But for purpose of this, you can. I'm just going to remove that because that'll make things a lot easier now. Okay. So next, repository, right? Interface. School repository. Okay. So I'm going to say that this is a repository.
Extends JPA.
Exactly. Repositories. Say that this is school.
And law.
Okay. Now, okay. So now here's where it starts to get interesting. So till now, what you've been doing is you have been creating the repository layer, you've been creating services layer, and creating all the services functions, right? Controller. Okay, you know what? Before that, let's just set up everything. Okay. Just set up. The next one is services, right? School services. Okay. So you have to say that this is a service. And obviously you have to auto wire the what is the previous layer called?
Repository.
Yeah, it was a repository, right? Yeah, inter repository. Yeah, let's call it srep. Yeah, school repository.
You don't want it to make it private?
Right. What about that? Private school repository. Okay. So that is done. Okay. Did I miss out anything?
No.
Nothing, right? No. Okay, now the layer above that would be the controller, right? So we'll do one for the controller. So school controller. Yeah, I'll just make a school controller. I'm going to say that this is a controller, right? Now, what's interesting is that this is going to work entirely on a REST framework. So the previous one, you were assuming that it could be REST, it could be anything. Here is this microservice is just going to give JSON inputs and take JSON outputs, right? So I'm going to say that this is just a REST controller, nothing else. Okay, I'm going to specify it's a REST controller, and then I'm going to give request mapping. /school, and so far so good, right? Yeah. And then we have to automate something here, right? The layer before this, what is it? It's a repository. Yeah. School services. Services. So we have set up everything, right? Now what you usually do is you start with the function, the controller, right? You start writing stuff in the controller. You write in the services, right? And then you have to then check, run the server, check the endpoints are working, all that, right? So now you actually don't do that. You now onwards you have to do a very different way, right? So now onwards you have to do it like this. You have to first start from the lowest layer, see if the lowest layer works. This is the lowest above models.
Yeah, correct. After models,
Regarding models, there's nothing you can do, right? You can't test anything on models. So before you do that, right, what I'll do is I'll just run this, okay, just to see if everything works.
hey, I have a doubt. Like, how do we create a table name? Like, why did we give the table name?
Oh shit! What the hell is this? Oh yeah, there we go. See, alter school, add column number of students. So there was an existing school table. I told you, right? Update.
Correct.
Let's just see what happened here, right? So there was an existing school table. I just want to see what's gonna happen. Oh, wait a sec. Nothing. You know what? I'll just create it. Then why bother with all that? I'll just,
Why did we give the table name? I'm not doing that.
one sec, one sec. Let me just make sure that I'm getting this part working. Then I'll. Yeah. So what do you say? Which table name?
No, no. Why do I write the table name? Table name. Table name.
Where do you write the table name?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. See, if you want, you can make changes. There it is. It's all done.
Okay.
So the school and all has been set up, right? So now look, see.
Okay.
So now I'll just do update instead of create.
Okay.
So you're talking about the table name, right?
Correct.
So you can actually change the table name,
Okay.
right? So this is what you're talking about, right?
Yeah. Correct.
Yeah. So what happens is by default, if you don't give table, right, by default it'll take school only.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
If I wanted to, I wanted to make a change.
Yeah. If you want to make a change, you can make changes in the name, right? Unique constraints. That means you can say that. Yeah, you can actually here itself you can say that the name is a unique constraint. You can actually do that. So you go inside the brackets and you see what all are there, and you can read about what each does.
And we have to give like this, right? Name dot and then give whatever
Not name dot. Just press enter. You'll get
the.
this.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And see the thing is, they'll also tell you what. See from name they're expecting a string.
Correct.
Got it?
Yes.
They're expecting so you type a string. So when you type a string, you have to give the table name like this, right? Got it? Okay, so now the table as for school has been created, right?
Yes.
Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the school repository.
Okay.
I'm going to select this. I'm going to go to new. Just take a look at this, okay?
Yeah.
So select your lowest layer, your
Okay.
repository there. After you've just created a repository, just go there. Say I want to go. Say that I want to do I want to do a unit test case. So automatically it'll say, okay, so you can create school repository test. Then you just click on next or just click on finish. That's enough.
Okay.
So what will happen is now you see that test Java.
Oh.
You have seen this, right? Everything all the time you've been working here,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
There's something here called test. So
Okay.
over here it goes for that package. Repositories package creates a test case.
Okay.
So you go there, right? Now, usually for repositories, you'll do something called Jpa testing, right? Data Jpa test, but that means it will if you make it won't let you make any changes to the database. But I want there to be changes to the database, so I'll say that this is a Spring Boot test. Okay. So now, so here I have to auto-wire the. I'll show you. Now I'm going to auto-wire the repository, right? So school repository.
Yes. Correct.
Yeah, I'll just make that private.
Use the same repository. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, school repository. Yeah, it doesn't matter. No. The name doesn't matter. See,
Okay.
I can do whatever I want here. because what matters is inside. See, you see private, right? That means this is only inside this class. So this repository object will only work inside this class, right? So I can just say whatever I want. Okay. Now I'm going to say, okay, now I'm going to create a test case. Okay, I want to test something. So test, it's void. Okay, and I want to. Okay, let's call this a get all. Okay, so this is how your test cases look. Actually, it's usually a bit more complicated, but it's very simple. So it'll be void, and there'll be no inputs basically. That's how test cases look like. So you want to create a test case to get all the items in a repository, right? So it should give me all the schools in the repository. Let's see if that works. Okay, so we have srep dot, there's a find all, right? Okay, yeah, so I'll use that. So what I want to do is I'm going to go is print out srep dot find all. Okay. Okay, so now I want to just test this. What this does, it goes to the repository and finds all the student objects. Just this simple function. You don't have to do anything, right? You just have this is a quick test. So I'm going to run this as a unit test case.
You run it as unit test.
Yeah, I'll show you. Oh, there we go. It's all correct. See, do you see that? The list.
Okay. But what is the main use of this?
Huh?
What is the main use of this? Writing this?
Okay, that's because, see, otherwise at the beginning itself you can start testing it right from the after you create a repository right then and there you can test different functions in the repository. You don't have to create the service layer, then the controller layer, and the postman. You don't have to do anything of that sort. You can start testing right here. I'll give you. So right now this is a get all function that gives you everything, and look, there's nothing. Okay. Now I want to test if I can add something. Okay. So let's say right, add school. Okay, it's called an add school function. Okay, so I'm going to say so first I'll have to create a school object, right? School s is equal to new. This is a constructor. Okay. Now first they are asking for ID, but ID is generated automatically, so we leave it as null. Name, I'll just call this as school1. Okay. Number of students, let's say there is 450. Okay, so got it. So now I've created a school object. Now I want to save the school object into my existing database through this Jpa repository. So what do? I say srep dot save s. Okay. Now I want to know if this has been saved. Okay. So what I'll do is I'll just say let's see if I can do a get all from here. Yeah, I'll just try get all function. Okay. Right. This get all function.
Yeah, so once it's updated,
yeah.
show the updated values.
Yeah. Right.
Okay.
So let's see if this works. Okay. Run as JUnit test case.
So it's a post mapping.
Something like that. Yeah, it is a post.
It's a post mapping.
It mapping and all comes with endpoints and all. But right now, you're just testing this at this. Let's see. It worked.
Okay.
And you know why you give null, right? Because you're not the one assigning the number, right?
For ID, yes.
Exactly. So you give null in this layer. You give null, right? So you can add schools now, and you just want to check it out. See, it's there. Number underscore of underscore students. Huh. Wow.
Right.
I gave number of students, so they are, oh right. Look at that. So automatically they see they've already automatically they make it as underscore underscore.
Oh.
Weird, man. Anyway, so So I've actually added one school here. Now let me just add another school just to see if I can get away with it, right? So you can come here, see JUnit cascade, see that? Test case, add school test case. I can run it from here.
Where is that add school, man? I didn't get that. Oh, this one.
Yeah, this add school.
Oh, you just check
Yeah,
for this function.
you can do two ways. So this button here, right? It shows all the previously run stuff. So all you see all these unit test cases, JU. These are unit test cases. And this you see this green button, that's a Spring Boot. You run the entire Spring Boot.
But I have a doubt. So this material like add school and get on, right? Only for this.
Yes.
Only
Correct.
for that.
Yes, only for that. It'll run only that. You can do like this. You can say run as JUnit test case, or you can, after you run it one time, you can actually come back and run it the second time. So that's very convenient, right?
Yeah,
See,
it's
now look, now you can see, look, I've added another one. Easy. Next. So I'm able to add schools. Okay, that's good. Now, what else can we do? Okay, we can delete schools by ID, right? Okay, let's see if that works. Okay, test case. Sorry, test case void. I'm going to say delete by ID. Okay, let's call this delete by ID. Okay, so I'm going to give a long. So it is 1 and 2 here. Okay, so let's say I want to delete value number 2. Okay, so srep dot delete by ID. Here it is. Now I can't give 2 like that. You know why? Because I want to see, because this is just an integer. You have to specify that this is actually not integer, this is a long.
But L capital, right?
No, this is you can't. I'm casting in the. I'm casting in primitive type, right?
You can't use that. You used to do that one.
No, look, you can't cast it in. When you're casting, you have to cast in primitive type.
No, you can't use this way. And you put the flower basis and then ID.
Oh, dude, that is on that level. That is a controller level. This is here we are testing. Testing if each function works. Okay, so.
I'm assuming that and that so that I'm comparing what's
So I'm gonna test this out, right? Delete by ID.
okay.
Done. Checked. It's gone.
Yeah.
So I'll just run that again because I want that second one to be there. Right? Okay. So now, so now I'm just adding the second one through this. So now delete also works. Now let's try something else. Okay. What all can we do?
Update it. Update the value.
Updating values. Correct. Yeah. Yes. That. Where did I do that here? It was in student repository. Yes, so this is where it gets interesting. Now I want to change. Okay, let's just add one more just for fun, right?
Okay.
So let's make it 350. Okay. Add school. Okay, so now I want to update this from 350 to 250. Okay. So what do I do here? Now this is where it starts to get a bit complicated. This is where you need to know things like SQL. Okay, if you know SQL, right, your database is pretty much covered. So I'm going to say test. Okay, before I test, I'll just write the code in the repository itself. Okay, so update, it's not going to return anything, it's going to be a void. Yeah, first of all, you have to say that you're going to make a modification. I'm modifying something. Then you have to say that it's going to be transactional. And then you have to say that this is going to be a query. And you have to say that this is going to be a native SQL query. And then you can give the query value. Okay, let me see here. There you go. So this is the SQL this thing. Okay, I'll just give you the so you want to update school, where you want to set let's see, number of students. Number of students where ID is given. Okay, then here you do a void.
I have a doubt.
Huh?
I have a doubt. Why is
Because the thing is, if you don't do it with native SQL query, the computer is going to assume that, the compiler is going to assume you're doing it through a JPA's own, has its own query language called JPQL. So if I just give the query here, instead of this, I just type in the query, it won't work. I have to give it in JPQL query. Got it. So if you want to give SQL, you have to say native SQL query. Native query is true.
Okay.
Then
If
you
it's
can
true,
it will run in SQL. So this here it is SQL. Update school set number of students equal to. Okay, now this is where this also you have to do a little bit of work here. So here I'm going to say change number of students by ID. Okay, see, change number of students by ID. Okay, so ID will be long ID and what is the second one? Number of students. Okay, integer number. Okay, so basically it's like this, right? You have to say that if you're going to make any changes to an existing database, you have to give modifying transactional, and you have to give it the query, right? Update that table, set that number of students, that column equal to question mark 2. You know what this means? Question mark 2 means the second one. So this is the first one, this is the second one. And where ID is equal to question mark 1. Now question mark 1 is this first value. Got it? Now let's see if this works. Okay, school test repository. I'm going to test here. Void change them by ID. That's what I'm going to call it. So the repository, you have a change number of students by ID. Okay, so ID, what is it? So here I'm going to change ID number 3. Okay, so 3, I want to change it to, so ID number is 3, right? I want to change it from 650, I want to change it to I don't know, let's say 500. Okay, now there's a mistake here. Long. You have to specify this is a long. Yeah, because other this you're not doing because it's already integer. But this here, because it's a long, you have to say that it's actually long type. So that is done. And once that is done, what you do is, what I can do is I'm going to say sysout. I'm going to go to the repository. I'm going to find by ID. Okay, I'm going to give the ID here. The ID is 3, right? Long 3.
Right.
I'm going to say find by ID long 3 dot get. Yeah, dot get. So basically what this does is the repository finds that ID, finds that object by ID, and it gets it for me. Okay, and it prints that out, right, just to see if that value has been done. Okay, now let's see if this thing works. I'm going to run it as a JUnit test case.
This is easier, actually. Easier to test.
Didn't work. Update school said that SQL error. Okay, column number of students. Oh my god, that piece of shit. I told you, right, they changed it. I don't know why they look at that number underscore of underscore students. And I'll just run it again. No changes, right? Yeah, still the same. Okay. There you go. It's done. See?
Updated.
Now they've also shown it. Look, number of students are now being changed to 500. See? Those bastards
So
that changed
all
it.
these things doesn't.
Yeah, tell me one. All these things.
So all these things are like whatever you write, it's just testing and it's updating the values as well. So this reflects the entire application.
Yeah. No. Yeah. So this is only school repository test. Okay. If you go back to the recording, you will see that I showed you exactly how to create just for the repository testing case for the repository, and then I'm only testing the repository.
Can you go to the
DP.
the database? I wanted to check. Yeah. So it's all these values are updated in the table school only.
Yeah.
Okay. So it doesn't explicitly give other table like this table like that.
No, it doesn't do that. Actually, what happens is that's because I've just given it as Spring Boot test, but you know the you actually are supposed to give it as a JPA test case, data JPA test. Will disable
does
and
this
only
do?
apply only configuration relevant to JPA test. I mean, so anyway, the thing is, the reason I do that, I want to see that my tests are working. So before I can start, I can just delete everything and just start again, right? Before production, I can delete everything and there we go. So change number of students by ID. So now you know how to make the updating operations, right? You have to know SQL for that. Okay. Now this is where it gets interesting, right? So JPA has its own set of functions. Okay, so I'll show you JPA Query Methods. You see, in this case, previous case, I had to type the SQL query, But JP, in many cases for JP, you don't actually have to type it because they have already done a lot of things by default. I'll give you an example, right? So if you want to find something less than, suppose there's an age attribute, okay, then you can just say find by age less than. So if there's an age column, it'll give you all the rows where the age is less than this.
Got it.
Okay, less than, equal, greater than, before, after, is null, not null. I'll just give you an example. Okay, so find by first name, ignore case. Yeah, this is also something you can do. Find by last name. Okay, see, so okay, so let me show you here. Okay, this is this repository, right? Okay, now I want a list of students. Okay, not students, what am I saying? List of schools, right? I'm working with schools here. I want a list of schools. I want a function to return a list of schools, and that function is called find by what is that? Find by email. Find by name. Let's call this find by name. Okay. The reason you say name is you look at this. Okay. You have to give the same attribute except that the first one is each word has to be starts with caps,
Got it.
except for the first one. First one has to spawn, everything else is caps. So I'm going to say find by name, string name. Okay. So let's just test that. Okay. Test void find by name. Find by name. It should give me a list of schools with that name. Okay. Let me just give you an example. So find by name, let's call this school one. Oh yeah, this has to be printed out, right? So I'm just going to give a printout here. Find by name. It's going to give me a list of all schools with the with every school object that starts with this attribute, that has this attribute for name under the name column. Okay, and that's what it should do. Let's see if that works. Nothing, no control, nothing. I'm just testing each part, seeing what all I can do with my repository. See, look, it returned that. There we go. Now suppose I have, now let me add another school. Okay, school one with 1,300 students. Okay. So I'm going to run this as a, I'm going to add this and run it as a JUnit test case. See? Oh wait, sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. I have to do that again now. Find by name. So it's going to find all schools with this attribute. School. So the thing is, you notice that I didn't write any queries, right? The reason you don't do queries and all is because if you follow these rules, right? These rules, you can actually do a lot of things without typing any queries. Okay. So look, it has given me all the stuff. Now I'll give you another example. Okay. So find by, I want a list of schools. And this time let's say find by greater than. Okay. So one of these attributes in school is number of students, right? These idiots, they change things anyway. Number. And let's see if this works. Okay. Find by I don't know. Let's see. Find of number of students greater than. Find by number of students greater than integer n. So here this should give me a list of schools where the number of students attribute should be greater than whatever I've given here. Okay. Huh? I'm not giving anything here because I'm going to run a test case for this. Got it? Let's give a test case here. Void. Yes, not exactly pre-built. It is. Yeah, it changes. It depends on the variable names that you have put in, right? So it is kind of pre-built. I can say that. I'm going to say, hey, find number of students greater than. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to I want. So they give me a list of schools with number of students greater than that. So dot find by number of students greater than 0. Why not? Right? Okay, let's just say 500. Okay. Let's see if that thing works. Otherwise, or they'll screw around with their name. Ah, it works. See, these are all the schools with greater than 500. Or if I say if I want greater than 300, 400, right? Let's just run it again. See here, you don't have to give an underscore and all because you're within Java, right?
Correct.
And inside Java, it's given like this. It's only when you are in SQL, when you write in SQL, that is when uh, you have to go by the table according to what they've given. Okay, see, all the schools. Yeah, yeah. Oh, I did another one, right? Greater than 400. So there are three of them, right? Yeah. So as usual, so that works. So now you have an idea of how. So you can actually you can do so many things. Just read through this, right? So this is like they're assuming that each class has a first name, last name, age, right? So what all you can do. So this is the JPQL query that happens in the background. Yes, exactly. Okay. So I think we have done. So what I want to do is now I want to see now this is going to work like a microservice. Okay, the school repository, school microservice. So what it has to do is it has to give the JSON data based on the ID. Okay. So I'll just test that. Okay, I'll just see if void find school by ID. Okay. It has to return the entire school row based on the ID that I've given. Okay, so I'll just sys out srep dot find by ID. Okay, so I already did this here. Interestingly enough, so if I want the ID is 3, right? There is one with an ID of 3. So if I just run here, it should just give me. I'm just going to run this unit test case. This, yeah, it should give me this entire thing. There you go. So repository seems to work. So next, what I'll do is I'll just finish off the what is that? And this is the Microservice repository. So what is about repository? Services. Okay. So here I'm going to say, yeah, I'm just going to call it exactly like that. Find school by ID. It has to return a student, so I'm going to say student. I'm sorry, not student. What am I doing? School. Find school by ID and long ID. Okay. So now I'm going to say return dot find by ID dot get. Okay, now I want to see if this. So now I'm in the services layer, right? So let's close the repository. Let's just do a little. Let's start making a test case for service layer. Okay, just because we can do it. School service test. See, service layer. They have created one. So now I'm going to just run that test here. Find school by ID. Void find school by ID. Okay, so it has to sys out Oh wait, I have to auto wire. I have to auto. So since you're doing a services test, you have to auto wire the test layer. Okay. Private. Okay. Find school by ID. Here it is. So I'm going to say it has to be a long tree. Okay. I'm going to now. I'm running the test unit test case from of the service layer. Exactly. Oh, oh my God! No wonder.
Yeah. Yes.
The Spring Boot test.
Uh, this has to be written, right? Like this animation.
Ah, dude, it's still not. Where did I? Oh, so annoying. Spring Boot test. Why isn't this coming in the? Okay, so if I do a repository test, right?
So did you give the same?
Oh, I have to. I'm not, did I specify it's a test? No, I don't specify it's a test. No one. There you go.
And even small details.
Yeah, yeah. So I'll just test this one also. You see, you have to specify Spring Boot test and you specify it's a test. Now, yeah, our test case works. It's giving me what I want. It's giving me the school object. Okay. So what is the layer above this controller, right?
Which is what is this one? Services.
And
No,
so
model.
last we did was we just did services,
Model is
and finally the controller layer.
correct.
Now the model. Model is at bottom at the lowest. So we're going to get. Okay, we'll give this a get mapping. Use a get mapping. Now we won't post anything. Okay, because you know how to do all that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I'm just going to do a get mapping for this school. And then I'm going to say, okay, it's a public. It's not only void, it has to return a school. Public
So
school.
the entire use of controller is for the client.
Yes, yes. Public school services. Find school by ID. I'm going to return from the service layer. Find school by ID. Okay. Now, what am I missing here?
Response and request.
Correct. So here I have to say
Request.
that this is I have to request from the user, right? The request body. Now, what's interesting is that I don't have to type response body here. You know why? Because I specified it as a REST controller.
Oh, okay, okay.
If you specify as a REST controller, you don't have to type response body. Just remember that.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm not going to test anything anymore.
Okay.
I'm just going to run the Spring Boot application. Okay. Okay. The port, it's going to run from our local host machine only from this port. Okay. So okay, yeah, I think I'm already set up some stuff here. Let me just see.
You just need to change it. Oh, you have to put
Oh wait, I have to find school. Oh, I forgot, bro. Ah,
whatever.
I can't believe I messed this up. Okay. Actually, the request parameter comes from the user. slash school slash ID,
Oh,
right? You have to say that is actually from the path value. Is it?
path variable.
It's path variable,
Yeah,
right?
correct.
It's path variable. No.
You could say, yeah.
Okay, so far so good, right? Get mapping slash, it goes ask for the ID and path variable ID. Okay, so it looks good. Let's test this out. Okay,
Path variable gets the ID.
Path variable should get. Do you remember typing this?
Yeah.
Okay, then it's path variable. Yeah, path from the path endpoint path that you get the ID.
You wrote first RM and then
Yeah, I
you
forgot.
changed to path variable. So this is the one.
This is the correct one. Okay, I sometimes I forget. So I'm going to get from that. Okay, let's see now. Okay, I'm going to run this second microservice. Okay. Okay, so it started up.
Yeah.
And it's running. So now I'm going to go to Postman 9002 school get. Let's see one. Bad request.
I think
Oh wait, sorry, get slash. Slash school there. Oh, there is no get. There it is. See, school then slash ID.
Got it.
So I'm just getting whatever I want. See, so I'm getting. If I say 3. Okay. So basically, as long as this server is running on your local host, if you go to that local host and access that port with this endpoint, you'll get whatever is there, right?
And JUnit is only internal application to test inside the.
Yeah, in JUnit is just to test that small function. Each
Inside the STS.
exactly. When you do this on your own, you'll understand exactly. So our small microservice, school microservice working. Okay. Now the thing is, I want to create. This is just to give the school details. Okay. So I want to create a student microservice that will ask school microservice for all the details of the school. Okay, I'll show you. I'll show you. I'll show you exactly what I mean. I'm going to do a Spring. I'm going to create another Spring Start.
No, I just have a doubt.
Yeah.
This project, it is all private, right? It can't talk to each other.
It can, because I just showed you, right? It can talk through the URLs. Got it? So now I'm going to call this microservice. This is going to be the student one. Student microservice. Okay, so this, that. Microservice one student, excellent. The usual stuff, right? Go to pom.xml. Just make those changes here. Now the difference here is they're both running from the same local machine. So if you want them to run from the same local, the port has to be different. See, if I'm going to run 2 microservices from one machine, they can, to interact with the outside world, they have to do it through different ports. They can't do it through the same port. So each microservice will have to interact outside world through a different port. So here I'm going to specify it as 9001. Okay. Let's just start with create only here. Can do me a favor, just fill this up.
Water.
The half of it, just half. Thanks. Okay. Now I'm going to add a Lombok dependency because we need that desperately. for every single thing. Downloading, building, all done. So this is all set up. So now I'm going to do that usual routine. What are the new packages? Right? Now we start with
Model.
that's right. I'm going to just. What are the next one? After that,
Service.
okay. So now
Model.
we'll start with the models. Okay.
Student class. Entity.
Models is there, bro.
Data. At all. At all.
Okay. So
Private.
I'm going to say long ID. Then I'm going to say private string. What is that name, right?
Student name.
It's fine. It's going to be separate table anyway, so it doesn't matter. Okay, private long ID, private string name. Then what else? Oh, then it has to have. I'll show you. What? Ah, the later. Private. Now it has to give the school ID. School ID. Okay.
Yeah.
So the student contains the school ID. Okay.
Okay.
Now in that other microservice,
Correct.
if you give the school ID,
Yeah.
it will give you the details of the school, the name of the school, the number of students.
Correct.
So this microservice is going to make a call to the other microservice with the student's school ID. And then we'll know the student's school and how many students are there in that. This guy's got it.
Yeah.
So we start with ID. What is the generation? Something generated value. And what is strategy? Has to do with. So far, so good. I can't think of anything else I've missed.
That's it. Correct. You just added column name.
Let's see if I missed something. Oh, I've okay made it non-nullable and all. Unique constraint. Yeah, you remember I told you about unique constraint, right? Make email as unique constraint.
So
Yeah, if you want, you can like. I just want to test some things, right? So I want to test and make sure that email could be non-nullable. If you have to type in your name, also has to be non-nullable, and then unique email has to be unique. It means no emails can be the same.
I have a doubt. Nullable means like if no value is entered,
Yes.
and unique is like unique value.
Yes.
So some value should be there.
No. The value should be different.
Different.
Like ID.
So you're giving both nullable and unique.
Yeah. So email has to be non-nullable, false. See that? It has to. There has to be something, and it has to be unique. That means no two students can have the same email ID. Got it? That is the meaning of this unique constraint column name email. So anyway, I'm not get into all that. I'm just going to do a quick microservice thing. So usual stuff. Okay, so this is for that one. Okay. So I've created that. Now I'll just run this so that the table will be created. Right? Yeah, it's dropped everything. So a table has been created. And whatever existed earlier has all been destroyed. Right, so now I'm just go back to update. See,
Okay.
school ID. Okay. So now I'm going to say, yeah, I'm going to start with the usual. Nothing, just you're used to this. So school, that's fine. Student repository. We have to say that this is a repository that extends Jpa repository student
Long.
long. Okay. The next one, I'm going to say that
Service.
yeah, services. Student services. The service. I'm gonna auto wire.
Yeah.
What do I auto wire?
Private. This student service repository. Yeah. Yes, sir. Anything.
So what I want here, I want a function that uh, okay, you know about all that get all and all, right?
Yeah.
How to get all.
Yeah.
You have done that several times. So I'm just going to go directly into the whole thing. So what I want to do here. So let's just create a function, public function. Okay. Before that, so now this is where it gets interesting, right? Uh, I have to create another class. Okay.
Okay.
No, I'll create another package. I'll just call this dot API classes.
To connect with other repository.
Huh?
To connect with other repository.
Yeah. No, basically what this does is you have to just say that the thing is you have to create a class of the thing that you're calling. The student is going to call the school. So I'm going to create a school class here. Okay. Now in the school class, do I say that it's an entity or okay, no, nothing at all. Just usual stuff, setters and getters, and so in the school, what all does the school have?
The same
And I-
values we need.
yeah,
The same values we need.
exactly. Whatever.
Okay.
See, whatever that school we made API
Yeah.
calls, right?
Yeah.
So it has to return. It will return these things.
Okay.
So we'll have to say that it will return a ID, right? So long ID. Then it will return a name. Private string name.
Okay.
Private integer. This would be integer. Number of students.
Entity.
Not entity because this is we are not making any tables. This is just to getters and setters, all args constructors, no args constructors. Just here, yeah, same thing. Okay. So now, so I'm also going to create another class. Okay.
Okay.
Basically, that I'll call that the what do I call it? Student and school.
Okay.
Okay. I'll show you. And school. It's getting a bit confusing. That's why you'll have to do this like 5-6 times. Yeah, so private student s st student private sch usual. I think I'll just do that. Here also same thing, getter, setters, usual stuff.
All args and
All args constructor, no args constructor. Okay. So this is a school object.
yeah.
Okay, because this microservice is going to take a request for a school.
Got it.
So before that, it has to know what a school is going to be like.
Correct. And you're just adding
This I'll explain that to you later. Okay, so that's why we have shown them that what to expect. That's why we have created a class with what to expect.
okay.
This microservice. Okay. So next I'm going to do is I'm now is where I'll have to do some. So you go to the main application. Okay, I'll just show you here. So in this case are the main, right? Microservice one main. So here you have to make a bean of for the REST template. I'll just come here.
Why is
I don't know, bro. Just REST template. Mm, public. Okay. Oh yeah, public method. Okay. Return new. Yep. So that part is done. So I'm doing this at the Spring Boot application, the main file,
got it?
right over there. I'm just creating that bean. Next, you'll have to go to repositories. I'm sorry, services. Here you have to say, I'm going to make a function here. Okay. Let's call this public. Okay. So now, see, the thing is now this microservice from student, it's going to request a school, right? It has a school's ID and it will ask the second microservice for the school object.
Correct.
So now we want to return. So now we have we want to return a student and a school object combined. Okay, that's the purpose of a microservice. Right?
Yeah, we need school entities, everything, and only ID.
We need student object and school object together. This the student's school. Okay.
Understood, yeah.
So the return type would be school, student and school. You remember that what I did earlier? Student and school. So this will be get school details. Let's call this get with. See, you know how to get. You already know how to get the details of this object within the same database, right? But now you're going to call another database from another service across the internet.
Yes.
So that's basically what's happening here.
Okay.
Student ID get with school details. Okay. So I'm going to say. So I already have a student ID, right? So I'm going to create a student object based on the ID that I'm given. Student st is equal to repository dot find the student by the student ID. Next. Okay, now I'm going to make a call across that. Okay, so now I'm school sch. Now the name of the method would be rest temp. Forgot the name. Hmm. Oh wait, before that I have to auto wire. Within that I have to auto wire a REST template.
Okay.
So you have the repository auto wire. Now the REST template that we did in that main class, that I'm going to auto wire that RT. So I'm going to say that REST template dot get for object. So URL and the response type. Okay. So now I'm going to go across the internet and I'm going to look for this object with this URL. Okay, so the URL has to be basically what you give in Postman.
That's
Just a second. But this has to go with that HTTP and all. Right. So when this microservice is running, right, school microservice is running, when you make a call to this school, okay, local host, actually it has to be that HTTP and all has to be there. Just a second. HTTP. Yeah. Yeah, it's going to go. If that school microservice is running, it will send out a request. Say, look, I'll go to HTTP school, right? And then it has to go look for the school ID, right?
correct.
Now, school ID is contained in that student object. So you just add student dot get school ID. Okay. And then you have to specify what it's going to be. It's going to be basically school dot what you're going to get is a school class. So see when you send it's going to get us what you're going to get is a school class.
In the school
right?
class, correct.
I'm going to get that. So you that REST template, send out the URL call with whatever student ID, and then the school dot class. Okay.
Perfect.
Okay. So now after that you okay, do what you can do is you can then you create an object of student and school. So now you got the student object, you got the school object from the other microservice. Right? So you just say student and school. Let's call it response equal to new come on. There it is. Student and school. Okay. And then you return this response. This is the response it's expecting. Basically, this is the set of steps you have to do. Okay. Now we are going to test this out a little bit. Okay. So before we start doing the controller layer and all, right, we'll test a little bit here and there. So let me just do that first. So here you have the student services, student repository, student service. Yeah, I want to test the students. Oh wait, before that I want to add some stuff. Okay, so let me just make a test class here. JUnit test case, student repository test. Spring Boot test. I'm going to make a test case that says I'm going to add student. Okay. I'm just going to create a student object here. Student. What I'll do is I'll just say, oh wait, I have to create an AutoWire repository first. AutoWire mm, private student repository. The repository dot save. Yeah, so you can save a student object, but I don't have a student object, so I'm just going to create it on the fly right here. New student. ID is null. Name is let's call him st1. Long school ID. Okay, it's going to be a long school ID. What school IDs do we have here? We have 1 1 3 4 5. Okay, let's start with 1. Okay. Oh, right, 1. Okay. Yeah, so do you know what happened just now? I want to save a student object, but I'm creating a student object on the fly right here. I'll just create a few more.
This saves in student, not in school object.
Huh?
This saves in student object.
In the student table,
Oh, yeah, student table.
I'll put student 3 in table in school 3.
Okay.
1 3 4 5. Student 4 in also in 3. Student 5 in 1. Student, yeah, let's keep it like this. Student 6 is in 1. So we have all these students, we have many of them in 1, 2 of them in 3. We'll ignore the rest. Okay. Add student. Let's just run this Jpa test case. All done. All inserted. There you go. 1 2 3 4 5 6. Excellent. Okay, so now we have that, right? So we have the tables all set up, all done. I'm going to say not necessary. Now I'm going to test this. Okay. Now before I test this, I have to make sure that the school microservice is running, because this will make a call to the school microservice. Okay. So let me just make sure the school is running.
I didn't look like how did you run this one? You just did this one, right? How did you run the full?
Just right click here, run
You
as.
ran application.
I ran as an application. So now so I've run the school microservice, right? Because now I want to see school 3 get school /3. Yes, so it works. Okay. So right now it's online. So whenever I make a call here, it'll go. So now when I make a call to that with the student ID, student school ID, I should get basically the student and the school combined. Okay. That should happen theoretically. Let's see if it actually happens. So get with school details. Okay, so I'm going to run a test class for this only.
Okay.
Yeah, create test unit testing. But otherwise, I have to create a controller. Got it. I don't want to go through all that trouble. Before I create with controller, I just want to test this, make sure this works. Student services. I'm going to say this is Spring Boot test. So you can see on the left side, it's under services. Automatically it creates under.
Correct, yes.
test services. Okay. Now I'm going to say void get with school. Get with school. So what has to come here? Let's see. This is out. This is out. Yeah. Oh, so before that, I have to. You have to getting this. You have to auto fire the service layer, right?
Yeah.
Student service, student services, service. Services dot get with school details. So it has to be a long. So one of the student ID is what? So that there are students with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? Let's just give us 6.
Okay.
So look, see, it gives me a student and school. The student here. Now then it made a call to school. School Microservice running and gave me the school details.
Correct.
You see that?
We combined it. We got both.
Yeah.
Got it.
So that is working, right? So what I'm going to do now, so now if you look here, you can see that school microservice is running in the background. That's why this call was successful. Yeah. So now we'll do work on the controller because now we know it works. We'll do the controller stuff. Okay. Class, what is it? Controllers. Student controller. Right? Student controller. You have to say that this is a REST. Yeah, because we are doing REST API, just pure REST API. So yeah, because if you're doing front end and all that time, you have to just say controller. And since it's just pure backend REST API stuff, we can get away with just saying it's a REST controller. Right? And then request mapping also, right? What we say is that this is a student mapping. Okay, then what we this would be a get mapping here, a get function. With okay, so student
ID.
So with
School ID.
yeah. So what I'll just say with the student ID, right? First, it has to you have to pass the student's ID. Then you have to say I'm asking which school. Got it?
Oh, okay.
So public student and school. Public student and school. Get with school. Path variable like path variable long ID. See, there's no responsibility because it's a REST controller. So I'm just forgetting about it. Now I'll say, oh wait, before that we have to, most important thing, every time when you're working on the top two layers, you have to auto-wire. Keep forgetting this. Private, this is a student, right? Student service. So I will return services dot get with student details ID, and this should get the job done. Okay. So now I'm going to run this
student application.
student microservice. Okay. Now there are two microservices running. One, you had that school microservice that is already running. Now you have the student microservice that's running. Okay, so it's running. Should run a get all. That's the most basic thing. Get all. I'll do later if if the problem is still persisting. I'll do it.
No problem.
So student
You didn't have
ID.
any problem.
Yeah, so far no problem. See,
Yeah,
look,
that's good.
and 9001 port, right?
Correct.
So localhost 9001 /student and slash the ID of the student. Right now, what is the ID? Let's one. We'll just give it one only. One, and then it has to say slash with school. Slash with school. What will happen here? Yes, there it is.
Got it.
Okay. Now I'll just tell you, like, just give you some additional pointers. Like what usually happens here is, your student and school. I've just given, so what you can do is you can actually say something like private string. You can modify it any way you want. Student name. Okay. Private string school name, then student name, school name, then private integer. Sorry. Okay, let's call this students in school. Okay. So the student name is, so I'll show you. So now when you have this, you don't need testing now. You don't need this. Okay. So we got the student object, right? From the slash, when we /1, we get the student object, and we get the school object through making a call. We get the JSON format and we get store it here. So what we can do is now, okay, so student name. Okay, so let's just see st dot get name. Okay, then then this is school name, right? sh dot get name of the school dot get number of students. So now your response will basically, I'll show you now. Okay. Oh wait, I'll restart it here. I'm going to restart the MS Microservice One student application. Okay. See, now instead of that messy school block and student block, I've just got a cool, one single JSON block with student name, school name, students in school. Got it? So it made a call to that school microservice, got the details, and put it in that response class, school and student response class. So that is your. So this is now what I've shown you doesn't actually happen in production, right? Because what this is called tight coupling. That means the student and the school are talking to each other directly. That does not happen. That never happens. They actually talk to a central microservice that manages everything. So in Spring Boot, that would be Eureka, that's one. Eureka server. So the Eureka server is the one that manages. Everyone talks only to the Eureka server, and Eureka, because you can have thousands of school microservices and thousands of student microservices. Some might be down, some might be up. So the main server will tell which one to go to for the request and things like that. So this what is shown here is called tight coupling, and it is never used in production. Never used in production. Okay, but this will give you an idea of how. Now you know how microservices work, right?